to Where is Bishop, and today we're going to be learning about absolute monarchs in France. Before we start, please take a moment to get out a piece of paper or your notebook or your notepad on your device, because we're going to be taking some notes as we talk about the reign of King Louis XIV of France. As you can see here, I have a collage of pictures relating to what we'll be talking about today. First, on the top left, we have France highlighted in relation to the rest of the world. We on the right have the French flag, and here is a larger image of France. It's always important to know the geography of what we're studying. Paris is the capital of France. If you are from France or speak French, you would refer to it as Paris. The S will be silent. And as we go through this PowerPoint, I will do my best at proper French pronunciation. And lastly, I have the crepe, my favorite food of France. Our objective today is I will be able to explain the control of France by King Louis XIV and its impact on world history. Please take a minute and write this on your notes. The title of this section, Chapter 5, Section 2, The Reign of Louis XIV. XIV stands for 14. And reign is rule or control over. Take a moment and pause the video, and please, on your notes, write our question of the day. Imagine you were an absolute monarch, an all-powerful king or queen. Determine your rules for your empire. Take a minute now, jot down a couple rules you would use in your empire. Now that you have done that, please take a minute and star the most important rule that you have listed. Please make sure to have this tomorrow in class. We will be discussing further when we discuss our notes on the reign of King Louis XIV. To the left of the screen, you have a primary source portrait of King Louis XIV. Before we begin talking specifically about King Louis's reign, we're going to give some background. So take a minute and read through these notes and jot down St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre and Henry IV had to rebuild France. And a reminder, you can pause the video at any time. What this slide is giving us is the background to why today France is still mainly Roman Catholic. As we have talked about before, the Protestant Reformation pitted Protestants and Catholics against each other. Through the massacre and the preceding days that followed, Protestants are going to be pushed out of France. Henry himself was actually Protestant, but is going to be pressured into changing or converting to Catholic religion. He felt that he could have an open religious policy, but many did not like this, and he was assassinated in his own carriage in 1610. Here we see Henry in his royal portraits, primary sources, that he paid patrons to paint for him. Henry IV's son was Louis XIII. XIII is 10, 1, 2, 3, makes 13. At the point of Henry's death, his son is not able to rule, and the Cardinal Richelieu is going to take over for him. He is actually going to be the mastermind behind all the comings and goings of France instead of Louis XIII. Richelieu is going to make some drastic changes in France. These include no more castles, so noble people will live in regular houses and apartments. Obviously, they can design them and build them however they want. Castles are going to become obsolete. He is going to continue to battle against the Protestants, and he's going to increase the power of government agents, which is going to allow a middle class to rise, so you have a buffer between the poor and the nobles. Richelieu is out for glory, not just gold, and is going to get involved in a 30 Years' War to spread the power of France and to try to take over more territory. Here are two portraits of Cardinal Richelieu. Again, he technically is not the king, but is going to be like an advisor or the main person. He is going to be an advisor and the main person in charge in King Louis XIII's reign or time of rule. At this point, we have many people in France are skeptic or believe in skepticism, the idea that nothing can be known for certain. This is going to fill doubt in the minds of local French men and women. With this skepticism, individuals are going to start doubting their rulers. Michel de Montaigne is going to be one of these individuals, and he is going to say that nobody can have absolute or know everything. René Descartes is also going to do this and actually start modern day philosophy and start questioning the world around them. He is going to use the scientific method, which you have learned about in your science classes, in order to find the answers to questions. Many of the absolute monarchs are not going to like this, as their power is starting to be questioned. Here is a portrait of Michel. You can see the difference from noblemen and kings and queens to just everyday people. Michel is an everyday person. They're not ornate or over the top as in some of the other portraits we have seen. So now we're going to start getting into King Louis XIV's reign. XIV is 10, 1, and 5, and you subtract the 1, you get 14. So Louis XIV's reign or rule over France. He is going to be the most powerful ruler in France. When Louis XIV's father, King Louis XIII, passes, Louis is only 4 years old. He is not of age, obviously, and able to reign. Cardinal Mazarin is going to rule in his stead, or in place of him, until he's of age. The cardinal is going to end Cardinal Richelieu's involvement in the 30 Years' War, to raise taxes and strengthen the central government. Many people in France are not happy with this. They like the way things were under King Louis XIII, and when you mess with their money, a lot of people are going to be upset with that. There's going to be an attempt on rebellion or upheaval against the cardinal, but it fails. And as a result, he's going to have further issues. He is going to destroy people's lives and jobs and homes, and he's actually going to kill many people. The cardinal is not being very religious. And the peasants decided not to fight back with the nobles because the death was worse. And the cardinal is really going to mold Louis, and Louis is going to see him as an advisor, just as King Louis XIII did with Cardinal Richelieu. King Louis XIV is going to use Cardinal Mazarin as a guide in how he should reign. And here's another portrait of the cardinal. Upon Cardinal Mazarin's death, Louis XIV is going to take over at the age of 22. One of his first things that he does is he's going to weaken the nobles' power. For example, he's going to kick them out of the groups or councils that meet to discuss how France should be run. And he's going to hire taxes and administer justice. By this, he means if you don't pay, you're going to go to jail. In order to grow France economically or increase their standard of living and their growth of money, Louis XIV is going to hire Baptiste Colbert, Minister of Finance, and he believes in the idea of mercantilism just as Spanish absolute monarchs did, where there's only so many pieces of the pie, and in order to get your piece of the pie, you need to go out and take it. And France didn't want to rely on other people, so they decided not to import anything, and they're only going to focus on things that they can make. So unless it's made in France, they're not going to buy it. Now again, France has gone out and explored the world. If it's made in Haiti or parts of New France in our country today, would be Louisiana, etc., then that still counts as made in France. Here we have the portrait again that we saw of Louis XIV and a statue to him. Here is Jean-Baptiste Colbert, the Minister of Finance under King Louis, who's going to improve the economy of France. And I'm not talking about this Colbert. It is this Colbert. I don't know if they're related. That would be an interesting Ancestry.com to look up. In order for no imports to work, he's actually going to give tax breaks to French companies that set up in France. So just like today, if you have a company that sets up in one state and they get a tax break for staying here and for not leaving, that would be an example. He's going to set very high tariffs, which we'll explain, and he's going to encourage French colonies in Canada. So in parts of Canada, they're going to set up shop and make hats, for example, and then sell them to France only. So that way they can keep all the money within their empire. And as mentioned in previous slides, the Edict of Nantes is going to be repealed by Louis XIV. This is the end for the Huguenots or the Protestants in France, and they're going to leave the country. And today this is why 85% of France is mainly Roman Catholic. So this image describes how a tariff works. Take a minute to look at the image on how tariffs work. You can see that it's cheaper to buy something made in your country instead of paying a percentage or a fee from another country. This is what the French wanted to stop. They wanted all the French men and women to buy stuff made in their country or colonies. So let's take a look at King Louis XIV's day. As a king, he wakes up at 8:30 and he is woken up by people. He does not have an alarm clock necessarily. He has someone come and wake him up. There are 100 nobles that will be in his court. They rotate, and in groups of 4 they actually help him get dressed, because the king would not dress himself. That would be beneath him. He's actually going to keep these 100 nobles at his Palace of Versailles. This is his place that he has built for himself. It's like a massive compound where he will keep all his nobles close to him. This is very smart because that way he kind of knows what's going on. The Palace of Versailles is over the top, would be on MTV Cribs. It shows his power and all the money he has and his style. One of the biggest changes that King Louis is going to make is a change in art. He's going to get rid of the old idea of God and glory, and he's just going to focus on gold and how much he has and being all-powerful king, and he's the best of the best. You can see this in his palace. So the first image on the top is an artist's rendition of the Palace of Versailles, hand done at the time of its being built. The bottom 2 images are the palace still today, and I know you can see a lot of the tourists there. This is Versailles is actually its own town, 10 miles outside of Paris. But this is pretty much what it would have looked like, minus all the people in their street clothes, when King Louis XIV lived there. You can see the massive gardens, beautiful detail. This is one person's house. This is one palace. You can tell King Louis XIV had a lot of power and wealth and was very particular in detail with this grand design. We can see here further some of the fountains. Now remember, most people at this time do not have running water in their house, and King Louis XIV of France, as absolute ruler, is going to put all this money into these beautiful gardens. There were so many fountains, they didn't run them all at once. When King Louis wanted to go for a walk in the gardens, he'd actually have one of his servants run up a couple ahead, turn them on, admire them as he walks by, and then another servant shut it off after he had passed. Did not skimp on the inside either, as you can see. This is a grand entrance hallway that he would welcome his guests. You can see the beautiful chandeliers, gold, all hand done by artists in France. Now some of you might be saying to yourself, this house kind of looks familiar, or you might have seen it. Well, 2 famous people, Kim and Kanye, did get married here. So some things of Louis's war policies: he is going to invade other countries. He's going to send his royal army out to the west. This is going to also make him want to go north as he is successful. In class, we'll discuss more of King Louis's policies and advice to others and how he is going to actually rule his empire from a day-to-day basis. On the bottom right here, you can see an image inside of his bedroom. Again, no expense spared, very detailed, very ornate, and showing what a great absolute ruler he is. Louis did rule with a heavy hand, and many people resented him for this. and he did try to apologize in the end, but many people were happy upon his death. There are some things he did leave behind, or his legacy. France was a very powerful empire under his reign. France at this time was the leader of Europe, and we can see this in the military documents. Everything was written in French in order for people to be able to read across language barriers. So Versailles is going to put the country in debt with such an over-the-top palace, and he is going to abuse his power. And in the video we're going to watch in class, you will see some of these examples. What I'd like you to do now is pause the video and review your notes, and if you have any questions, please bring them to class. Now that you've reviewed your notes, I'd like you to go to the following link and look at the Palace of Versailles from its humble beginnings to all the way to Louis XVI's reign, which would be Louis XIV's grandson. This is very interactive, put out by Chateau, or the Palace of Versailles website itself. And again, we'll be talking about this in class. Thank you for watching. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Hope you learned a lot about King Louis XIV. Now, for our Where is Bishop today, we're going to mix it up a little bit. Today, I'd like you to suggest where Daisy, Lincoln, and I should go on our adventure in Meriden. So the Where is Bishop hasn't happened yet for this video. Text us a suggestion of where we should go and hang out. Thanks. Bye.